Hello, curling fans, and welcome back to another edition of the Broom Brothers, the official podcast of the Grand Slam of Curling and the Curling Group. As promised, before we head in and off to the summer, there's still a few little curling events going on. We've got the World U21 mixed doubles this week in Edmonton. We're going to have some national championships in Asia. There's a little sprinkling of curling going on, and we still got a few people we wanted to talk to before we say goodbye to the Broom Brothers for the summer. And there were two guys, coincidentally, with the same first name that I was dying to talk to after this season. Mark Ideson, the Paralympic gold medal winning skip, and Mark Nichols, who just announced that he is returning to curling. He's going to be playing for Matt Dunstone next season. I wanted to get all of their thoughts on everything that's gone on. Two fabulous interviews. I'm not going to belabor the point. We are going to get to them right away. But first, a reminder, this episode is brought to you by Goldline Curling. We heard from CEO Pete Townshend just a couple episodes ago, and they got a lot of stuff going on at Goldline right now. A reminder that the high performance program for next year has changed a little bit. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. But if you are a competitive curler listening to this episode, all of that information is on Goldline Curling's blog. They're going to have a pool of money that they're giving away to teams that use their equipment. So, head on over to goldlinecurling.com, sign up for that. If you're not a highly competitive curler and you're listening to this, why not also head over to goldlinecurling.com and check out all the great equipment that they have for you for next season. Of course, there's apparel too. There's always sales going on the website: brooms, shoes, gloves, protective headwear, you name it, they've got it. So check it out at goldlinecurling.com. All right. It is time to chat to Paralympic gold medal winning skip, undefeated, by the way, Mark Ideson. Yes, I talked to him about the last shot. Yes, we get into everything that's going on with wheelchair curling, with the team. It was a fantastic chat. I know you're going to love it. So without any further ado, here is Mark Ideson. All right, I am pleased to be joined by Mark Ideson, the skip of the gold medal winning Paralympic team in 2026. And Mark, I have to welcome you to the show with the top four. I'm going to give you four questions, and you're just going to give me the first answer that pops into your mind, okay?
Top four.
All right. If you know that both sets of rocks are good, there's no problem with either set, what color are you taking?
Yellow.
If you had to sit in the middle seat on a plane full of curlers, who would you choose to sit in between? You cannot choose your own team.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Probably Rachel Holman, Brad Jacobs.
Why not? Just a Paralympian or an Olympic and Paralympic row of gold medal winning skips or medal winning skips.
Yeah, seems to me.
I love that. What is your favorite curling club that's not your home club?
Oh, that's a good question. Played a little two-sheeter in Balgonie, Saskatchewan. That's memorable.
Balgonie, where is that? How'd you find yourself there?
Our previous coach was from small town Saskatchewan, took us to his home club. It was amazing.
That rocks. Last question. How would your bitterest rival describe you?
Oh, calm.
That feels like a very nice thing for your rival to say about you. Oh, he's just a calm guy.
Yeah.
You've got it all. I mean, okay, well, that dovetails perfectly into my first question, because speaking of calm, I feel like we have to start here with the final shot of the Paralympics. I have been in curling, around curling for 30 years. I have never screamed at my TV during a curling game before, but I think like a lot of Canada, I was yelling, throw it, throw it. Can you walk me through the last shot from your perspective? I'm sure you've done it a couple times already, but I'm sure there's some fans who haven't heard. What was going through your mind? How did it all play out? Because, yeah, if you don't throw the stone, you lose.
Yeah, and only a couple of us on the ice knew that rule at the time. Adds to the drama. So I initially thought we were shot. So my second last draw, the outturn draw, on the screen, it looked like we were counting. and the Chinese skip Haitao missed his last. So I actually thought the game was over. And so I made a joke. Should we hit it? And I didn't expect the reaction I got. It's like, no, we shouldn't hit it. Well, but I was actually kidding. So I just fully intended to throw it away. And I actually saw the Chinese skip reach for John's hand, the Chinese third reach for John's hand to shake. So I assumed that the game was over. So I started to roll down the ice, and with the thought that it was over. And then John didn't seem sure, and the Chinese skip called off the third. So then chaos ensued at that point.
Right.
And so when you're in a chair in the house, it's really hard to get over the rocks well enough to get a good idea of who's actually shot. And rightfully so, John didn't want to lose a Paralympic gold medal on a measure. So that last minute just got quite chaotic because at our end, of course, and there's no back and forth. So I didn't actually have eyes on that shot myself. So we're, of course, all just relying on John's eye, and he's got a great eye. So if he wasn't sure, then we felt like we eventually had to play it. But so I got there was a lot of back and forth, and John's like, I like the tap, and then I got the 15-second warning from Kalinda behind me. And luckily our coach Mickey Lismore and we had practiced my pre-shot routine prior to leaving for Cortina, so I knew we were cutting it close at 15 seconds. I'm usually full pre-shot routine about 30 seconds, so had to get it away. And I was probably the only one in the building at the last couple seconds that I knew I was going to try to attempt to make the shot, because all along we were thinking we're going to throw it away. So finally I let her go with 2.8 seconds left, and I had a funny grin on my face because I was thinking, man, that must have been crazy to watch.
It was
Thinking about everyone else, and then halfway down I'm like, oh geez, that's pretty good. And then I had the I guess audacity to call, okay, we're going to be shot now, when I just about hit the hog line. And then John's scream and the little tap, and yeah, the play erupted. It was incredible.
I mean, it did end up making you look pretty badass, I have to say, because, I know as, a longtime curler, and I'm sure even people watching who have never curled before, it felt like there was a sense of panic in everyone except for you. And I'm just trying to wrap my head around, like, so once you decide that you have to throw it, like, I mean, you literally threw the perfect shot, and you're talking about your pre-shot routines, usually 30 seconds. You did it in about 10 seconds instead. How did you manage to find it in that moment? Because it was absolutely incredible. I mean, you couldn't have thrown it any better.
I wish I could say it was all based on skill and we had it all figured out, but I think along the way there's a little bit of luck involved. And we had thrown that wide path a few times in the game, and I'd just thrown it a little bit wider actually with the draw, so I kind of had that feel in my mind. And we train a lot of meters per second. So on our sticks, we have a meter per second line for 2.2, 2.3, which on each given sheet might be a 13 or 12 and a half or whatever. So I kind of just guessed the meters per second on that wide path on my first draw, the outturn draw. So I just threw the same meters per second on the last and just moved it enough to bump it.
It was beautiful. I mean, when you say a line, you're talking about where you're actually releasing the stone from the stick?
It's actually where we start the
Okay.
stroke. Yeah. So for a draw, I don't need to push it as far because we only have an arm's length to get the rock away with the right turn and the right weight. And so when I throw a hit, obviously the stroke is longer.
Right.
So each one of those, like draw, like we have probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 different lines on our stick. So yeah, for that one, I it worked out to be a 2.25 really, which is probably like backline weight.
Right. Okay. So it was playing a little heavier than.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was so awesome to watch. And you talked about your pre-shot routine. And I wanted to ask you about this because I know obviously you're in a chair and that presents its own complications, but you also, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have additional complications with your hands, right? That they're not like, I know some. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So people who are watching on the video could see Mark just held up his hands and fists. So how does that factor into like your pre-shot routine and everything too? Because I feel like even among Paralympic wheelchair curlers, it's like the difficulty level is even higher for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my hands don't work because my spinal cord injury is right behind my Adam's apple. So I have a C-level spinal cord injury. So I live with quadriplegia. So all 4 of my limbs are affected, and I can't open my hands fully, but I make them work pretty well, considering how bad they work. So it does take a little bit of extra time. Like I don't have triceps either. So when I try to get my hand on my stick, it sometimes takes me a few attempts to land it on there. So we take that into consideration as well. But the combination of a leather glove and a rubber grip on my stick allows me to not have additional apparatuses, to hold the stick. So I just have just enough grip strength in my right hand with the combination of leather and rubber that I can get it away fairly regularly, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, that feels inspiring to me. Like, I feel like there's a lot of, Paralympians or potential even just wheelchair curlers who might think like, that's why I wanted to bring it up with you. Cause I feel like there's a lot of them that might think like, well, I don't have the hand function that maybe other people would, so I can't do this. And you're obviously proving them wrong. Like, it's so impressive to me.
Like, I think that's been a sort of a theme throughout my whole Paralympic journey is just adaptability. Because like you say, there's not a lot of people living with quadriplegia that are playing wheelchair curling. It's mostly paras and single leg amps, and now some double leg amps. And so mostly full hand function and upper body strength, and in some cases full core strength. So I've had to adapt over the years. I use a support post off the front of my chair, which acts as like a false core, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've tried various different handles, and like a T handle and a garden handle and all sorts of different to try to land on the right combination that works well for me. And there are Latvia had two quads playing this year, and which was really good to see. And they're young and they're going to be strong in the future. And so yeah, it's nice to see that growth in the game.
Totally. I think it's something that able-bodied players wouldn't even think about or know about. So, I think it's insanely cool. And I just, because I talked to Mickey too, and he talked with me about how, your pre-shot routine has to look a certain way to accommodate for, what you need. And so I just love it. I think it's awesome. And I wanted to ask you about this. You mentioned online, you had an Instagram post, you were talking about the Paralympics, and you've been to 4 now. You've won gold at other Paralympics. This wasn't your first Paralympic gold, but you said that this was perhaps the most special or the most memorable of the Olympics, or sorry, the Paralympics that you've been to. Can you talk to me about that? Why? Like, why was this the one that really stood out as the most special, as you've had some time to reflect on it?
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons. Italy was incredible. Like the scenery, the village was amazing. The venue, historic venue, used in the 56 opening ceremonies of the Olympics there. Like there's so many things about that area of Italy that were so memorable. And probably the big part is, you know, I guess having friends and family back in the crowd after Beijing. And my kids made it to Pyeongchang, but obviously weren't able to come to Beijing because of the COVID games. And my son was only 8 in Pyeongchang. And this time, like, my family had the full experience. You know, they were in the crowd cheering, you know, taking in all the things they could in Italy, and just had everything we needed. Really, all of our team, we had everything we needed right in the building to succeed, which was really nice, and just a great group of people. Not that we haven't had great groups of people all along, but really special group with the 5 players, and we actually had 6 staff with us, including our physio and team doc. So just a combination of all those things, and then to finish off the event undefeated in the fashion that it ended, you know, incredibly memorable.
For sure. I wanted to ask you about that. You went undefeated, and I would say, you know, I follow wheelchair curling a little bit. I'm not as super well versed on it as I am able-bodied curling, but I have called World Wheelchair Championship games before, and I'm aware of the fact that wheelchair curling, much like able-bodied curling, is getting very good. You know, there's new nations emerging all the time. Like we saw South Korea wasn't really a concern on the world stage even 5 years ago. Now they're one of the best teams in the world. Obviously, Hai Taiwan and China have been unbelievable for the last decade.
Yeah.
It's insane that you guys went undefeated. Were you surprised at that? Like, I think for me, looking at the field going in, I wouldn't have thought any team could go undefeated. Like, what do you credit that to?
Well, first of all, totally surprised. Yeah, I think if you go into that event thinking you're going to be undefeated, you're crazy. Such a strong field, and like I credit that to just the grit and I think experience and never give up attitude of this team. We never feel like we're out of it. Like we're constantly communicating paths and rocks, and not like, you know, every other team doesn't, but we just keep going. We just keep, you know, working at it and learning right to the last stone. And like probably 4 or 5 of those games we came from behind, and in the 8th end, including the semifinal, we're down 2 without hammer. And so I think we just keep grinding, never think we're out of it.
Is there something about wheelchair curling that allows for that too, though? Because it does feel as though like there's always opportunities for a big end with or without the hammer. Like, is that something that kind of helps you in your belief a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. I like, you can't rely on misses, but occasionally you're going to get one. And, you know, with the skill level of these teams, you can't ever predict that you're going to get a big end. And, but, you know, if you just stay patient, and I think that's probably a key for us, is just staying patient and knowing that when the opportunity comes, we're going to have all of the skills we need and all of the information, you know, from just what we've collected to capitalize on the opportunity.
You had been playing mixed doubles a lot of this quad. You know, that was kind of your role. And then as the mixed doubles team didn't manage to qualify for the Paralympics, you kind of got brought into the 4-person program, and you've had different roles on the 4-player team too. You've skipped but thrown lead. You've been kind of all over the place. And this event, it was from the start, skip and 4th. How did those conversations start? Like, I want you to walk me through, you know, you getting the call or the coaches deciding that you were not only going to be the skip, but you were going to be throwing 4th rocks. Maybe tell me about those conversations, and how comfortable were you with that idea that, I'm going to come into the Paralympics and I'm going to be skipping and throwing last?
Yeah, that's like, I'm a team guy, so basically whatever the staff is telling me they want me to do, I'll go do it. Yeah, Ina and I didn't play much mixed doubles the first 2 years of the quad. Just nationally here with some local events, and then Ina and I went and tried to secure the mixed doubles spot for the Paralympics in the just last year, and we ran the table and then lost the quarterfinal, and which was a heartbreaker because we didn't collect enough points to secure the spot. I guess the silver lining of that is we had the dream team together for the fours, which staff and players included, which probably helped land us where we did. But I've played, I've skipped for the last since 2000, and I skipped and threw last in 2018. Then 19 through this year, I skipped and threw lead, and that was just to leverage my skill set. Like I'm a pretty good field player, so I set the ends up, and but this year, I guess, just to leverage some of the other skills that our players have, it was like Kalinda's also an excellent field player, and Ina can make everything at second, was the top second in the Paralympics, and John can throw bombs and also is a very versatile player and was a top third in the event. So basically, like with those three throwing ahead, that just, they were just lobbing in softballs for me to finish off the end. So that, kudos to the staff for picking up on that and making the call.
Yeah, that felt like the weapon to me, not to take anything away from Ina and Kalinda and Gil as your alternate, but it really felt like John moving down to third. It almost had that John Morris-esque quality of, he could and can skip and throw last, but you get to insert him at third. It really felt like that was a huge leverage point for you and the team in winning a lot of the games in Cortina.
Yeah, definitely. He and inherently in wheelchair curling, there's going to be trouble. And with John's upweight ability, and he throws with such precision and technical excellence that, it's easy to put the broom down for him, and he can clear rocks out when we need him to, but also a great drawer and made a lot of great draws when we needed.
Yeah, totally. I mean, fantastic player. Just a couple more. It felt to me as an outside observer, almost much like able-bodied curling at the Olympics too, but in the Paralympics, like it really felt like wheelchair curling had a lot of visibility compared with other Paralympics. So I have two questions about that. Number one, am I correct in saying that? And then number two, where do we go from here? Like, how do we help the game grow if there is indeed more eyeballs on it now?
Yeah, no, we definitely have more eyeballs on it. I've seen some of the stats from how many people watch the games, and in the 700,000, which for wheelchair curling is enormous. And I credit that to some of that to CBC and Devin Peru, actually, who has been an incredible advocate for us. And he's there every game. He's part of our team. When we're there on the grounds, and I think that's probably the key, is just to continue to, get in the spotlight when we can. Like, there's a lot of excellent wheelchair curlers in Canada and, internationally. And I think it's a game that people enjoy to watch because we're mic'd and you can hear every word we're saying. And then there's not a lot of yelling in between. Not that that's not a big part of curling, of course, but it's quiet when the rock is coming down the ice, so people don't have to use their TVs or whatever. So I think that just the exposure is so good for our game and for the Paralympic movement in general.
So you're saying wheelchair curling a little bit more meditative. It's a bit, it's a nicer sport to lay down on the couch when you're hungover and just soak it in.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to ask you about this in terms of growing the game. You know, the team was at Rock League in the just a couple weeks ago, and you had a chance to play a little bit in between games. I've seen some people talk about including wheelchair curling in Rock League, which I think would be excellent. I also have heard people talk about, integrated games where, you'd have some wheelchair players playing with some able-bodied players. And I wanted to ask, just for my own curiosity, like, is that something you would want or you would think would help grow the game? Or would you rather, let's say you're in Rock League for sure, would you rather just play wheelchair curling?
Oh, I think wheelchair curling integrates so well with able-bodied curling, and I think that's the one unique thing about wheelchair curling is you can just join any club and go play with able-bodied players. So I think it would be so much fun to integrate games with the able-bodied curlers, and sure, it'd be nice obviously to continue to play maybe Rock League or Slam stuff against other wheelchair curling teams. Sure. have exposure that way, but to play integrated games would be so much fun.
Okay. I have no power, but whatever limited power I have, I'll see what I can do. But yeah, I mean, we know we had the GSOC Wheelchair Invitational last year. We know it's coming back this year. It's also going to be at the Players, which is the biggest Grand Slam of curling event. So that's exciting. But I think let's get you in Rock League too. Why not?
Yeah, no, I love it. And, we're so grateful for all the opportunities we've had thus far with the curling group and Rock League. Just incredible to be, on the same surface as these able-bodied professional curlers and out there having fun and having them, try throwing from a chair. And it's I don't know. I think it just adds a new light for the able-bodied curlers to sit down and throw a couple, because it's not as easy as it looks.
Oof. You're telling me. I've done it a couple times, and I'll say that also extends to sledge hockey. I've gotten on a sledge a couple times. Holy shit, is that hard? You're like, I've played hockey my whole life. I'm holding hockey sticks. It can't be that hard, and it is so hard. It's crazy.
Yeah, and parasport in general, try going down a mountain blind. It's some of these athletes are just extraordinary.
Yeah, 100%. Last question. Speaking of extraordinary athletes, not hard to notice that your daughter is also making her way in the curling world. She just won the U21 mixed doubles championships. As you told me, you're going to be coaching. Probably by the time this interview comes out, you'll be at the World U21 mixed doubles championships coaching her. Talk to me about that. Did she get into curling because of you? She's obviously turned into quite a good little curler. Talk to me about your daughter and how her curling career is going.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited for Brooklyn and Owen to be representing Canada, their first world championship. And so I started curling back in 2010 after being convinced to go give it a try. And there was a Little Rock program that was going on right after the wheelchair program was finished. So it just made sense for us as a family, for me to go practice, and then Brooklyn would go practice. And so we almost started curling at the same time. So she's been doing it for quite a few years and has grown into an exceptional curler, and she just loves it. She can't get enough of it, and she's a real student of the game. And so she's put a lot of time in, and her and Owen, I think they're ready to represent Canada at this event, and they're really excited to do so. And it's going to be a strong field, but we're well supported out there, so it's going to be great.
I love it. I mean, it's awesome. It's so cool to see. You posted the picture of you and her and Owen holding the banner, and I just thought, God, what a great year to be an Ideson, Paralympic gold medalist, Canadian U21 mixed doubles champion. Congratulations on everything, Mark. So glad to have you on the show. And looking forward to eventually seeing you in Rock League with the limited power I'm going to use and exercise to get you there.
I'll hold you to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, John.
How good was that? I love Mark. I love the whole Paralympic curling team. Obviously, we talked to John Thurston and Chrissy Molnar earlier this year. Really does feel like wheelchair curling is on the edge of a moment here. I know I've heard about wheelchair curling, learn to curls and stuff like that happened in the wake of the Paralympics being sold out. And we heard from John and Chrissy earlier this year. A lot of times wheelchair athletes just kind of get recruited from coaches and other people seeing them out in chairs in public and saying, hey, have you ever tried curling? And so feels kind of cool that now there's these big moments in wheelchair curling that, potential future athletes can hang their hat on and really want to get into the sport. Loved that chat with Mark. Of course, when we get into the fall with Broom Brothers, we're going to keep up with all things wheelchair curling as we did this season. Of course, we'll have the Grand Slam Invitational again. Lots of fun stuff going on the wheelchair curling side of things. Now, before we get to the Mark Nichols interview, a reminder again, this episode is brought to you by Goldline Curling. Check out all of their apparel, all of their goods. They've got everything you need to be at the top of your game. They are the choice of champions. Of course, they also sell all the hardline products that you know and love. Those are all available online, and just because the curling season has stopped doesn't mean Goldline has. Head on over to goldlinecurling.com today. Now, as I said off the top of the show, had to talk to this guy, Mark Nichols, just wrapping up over 25 years, playing with Brad Gushue, and now he's striking out on his own. Wasn't sure if he was going to retire. Got a fortuitous phone call from the defending Canadian champion, Matt Dunstone. We know that Mark is going to be back playing second for Matt Dunstone. I asked him all about Brad's retirement, whether he thought he was going to come back, how he feels about the fit with Matt Dunstone. It was such a great chat. Mark is such a thoughtful guy. I know that, Brad ends up being, as the skip, you end up being the guy who does the interviews over the years, but Mark had so much awesome stuff to say just about his own journey, his new team. I was thrilled to chat to him. You're going to hear it now. Here's Mark Nichols. All right, I am pleased to be joined by the newly minted member of Team Matt Dunstone, Mark Nichols. Mark, so pleased to have you on the show. Very excited to talk about this last year of curling that you've had. But before we get to that, we have to start with the top four. I'm going to ask you 4 questions. I just want you to give me the first answer that pops into your head, okay?
Okay.
All right. If you were on a... Sorry?
Right out of the gate, hey?
Right out of the gate. Yeah, we got to get, I want the energy. I want to get us feeling nice.
Okay, let's go.
If you were on a plane full of curlers and you had to take a middle seat, who would you want to be on either side of you? And you can't pick your own teammates.
My new teammates or old teammates?
Let's say any teammates from the last coming up or previous.
Okay. That's good. Is it? Yeah. Let's go with, I'd sit next to probably Grant Hardy.
Yeah.
I don't know Grant real well, but I think I like him. But I think it'd be good coming in. He's a, fellow third so I think we'd have a lot in common.
Yep.
Grant, and let's go with, my gosh. Can it be like a former, old time curler? Let's say Pat Ryan.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I like that. Pat's a great guy to talk to. And I feel like on a plane, he'd be very chill.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up and the first Brier I remember watching was when he won his second in a row, kind of back in the late 80s. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of when I really remember kind of getting hooked on the Brier. So I was always a huge fan of Pat.
Good combo, Pat and Grant. I love it. What is your favorite curling club other than your home club?
Ooh, my favorite curling club. Over in Basel. I really like the curling club over in Basel.
I've heard good things. I got to find my way over there for sure. if both sets of rocks are great, you know, there's no problems with either one. What color are you taking?
Ooh, are we blue and red, or are we
whatever you want?
I'm going red.
Okay. And finally, how would your bitterest rival describe you?
My bitterest rival. Oh boy. Man, whiny. Just the pain in their side. I don't know. I
like whiny. I feel like I've never heard whiny before. That's good.
I don't know. I hope I don't have too many bitter rivals out there, but yeah. If I was my own rival, I'd say he's really whiny.
Nice. I love that. I mean, that's great. I think people would say that about me too, probably, to be honest with you. As I said off the top, I kind of just, obviously I could go so many directions in talking to you. You've had an amazing curling career, but I kind of want to go through the last year because it feels like, you know, it's been quite an upheaval for you and lots of stuff going on. So I want
going on. Yeah.
Yeah. A few things. So I want to go back to kind of the beginning of this year and Brad telling you that he was going to retire, because I assume you were the first phone call after his family or whatever. So can you tell me a little bit just about like how that conversation went, some of the emotions you went through when you talked to him about that?
Yeah, it was more shock, but like also, yeah, it was a hard conversation to have kind of once we found out, because I think there was always an expectation that it was coming. And I think there was, you know, a small percentage of me thinking that, yeah, he might keep going. And, you know, we still had another, I don't want to say another quad left, but maybe another year to play. And, but when he told us, it was hard, you know, cause then it's kind of reality. Now we know you only got, you know, 50 games left or 60, you know, you're just kind of counting them down. So I think, yeah, it was a kind of big eye-opening moment and a realization that, you know, myself and him had been at it for ever. You know, the first year we curled together was 1998, 99, and that season. And to think it was almost 30 years ago that we first started it, curling together, it's like, it almost felt like it was never going to end. And yeah, so it did make the fall and the rest of the season kind of weigh a little bit heavier on you.
Yeah, totally. And you bring up you know, you were shocked, but maybe not so shocked. And I think when we heard from Brad about him deciding, it kind of seemed like it had been on his mind for a couple of years, you know, weighing, am I going to make it to the end of this quad? Am I going to want to go after this quad? Did you have a sense even a couple years ago that might be possible, or were you always just sort of hopeful it was going to keep going?
I think both.
Right. Yeah.
I remember having a conversation with Brad after we won the trials in 21, and it was actually on the flight home, or I believe we were stopped over, and it was like, how much longer do you think we can do this? And this was, you know, just leading into the Olympics in 22. So, you know, having that conversation is like, do we want to keep going? What are your thoughts? We had a conversation then about that. So obviously he had been thinking about it. I was always playing. It was like, how much longer do I want to keep playing with a young family? So yeah, it's like, yeah, it's something that we've been thinking about for the last, you know, 5-6 years, I would think. And probably even there's always times when you're on tour going, oh my God, am I going to do this? Like, why am I traveling again? Like, we're flight delays and stuck in airports and all this stuff. And it's like, really, why do I keep doing this? And yet here we are, we're still talking about it. So, I mean,
I guess the answer, we know the answer now. I guess.
That's right. Yeah. But it does. And I think as time goes on, it just, you know, that pendulum, or, you know, the teeter totter, like which one weighs more, being at home with your family and getting to experience those things with them and missing out. And eventually it just tips over and you'd say, you know, I've had a good run, but I want to experience something else. So.
Yeah, when Brad tells you, because I think, I was on that press conference last year, that conference call where Brad was kind of answering questions from reporters, and I had asked you at that time, what you were thinking, but I'm curious, and you hadn't made a decision yet, and it's kind of sounds like, you hadn't, but I'm curious as to like what your first thought was. So like, you hang up the phone with Brad, or if it was in person, whatever, you leave, you're driving in the car. Was your first thought like, I'm gone too? Was your first thought like, I kind of think I want to go? Like, what was your immediate kind of thought after that convo?
Yeah, I think like my first thought is like, whoa, like, am I even going to find a team type thing? Like, it's like, it might be, I might be, I don't know, forced out type thing, or, but it was, I think I would have, as I was like, yeah, you know what, it's probably time for me too. Right. Like that was kind of my thought. And I think I thought that for a long time. So yeah, to answer your question, the immediate thought I think would have been, yeah, I'm probably done too.
Right. And so then what was it like over the course of the year as you're weighing out, am I going to go? Am I not going to go? Yeah. You seemed reticent to really say anything publicly about what you were thinking. How did it eventually tip to where we know you're playing next season?
Good choice of the word, reticent. Well done.
Hey, I got a few $5 words over here.
That's great.
I could use occasionally.
So as we got closer to the trials, I had decided that, you know what, I'm just all in for this season, and I'm not gonna. I don't want to make up my mind. I don't want to have that weighing on me. And I had a conversation with my wife, and I said, I'm content with, because a lot of people were saying, well, you got to let people know you want to play so you don't get left out and all those things. And I basically said, you know what, if at the end of the Brier, if things don't go our way and we don't win, and I get 0 phone calls, or I don't get an option that suits me, I'm totally cool with being done. And I feel like when I made that decision, it kind of freed me up a little bit in terms of not thinking. I was totally at peace with, if I don't play if the Brier in St. John's is my last event, then I'm very happy that my last event is the Brier in St. John's.
Sure.
So, and then you play the trials, and we played pretty darn good for the majority of it. And then we played the Brier, and we played pretty good. And you still feel that you can compete, and you're still making great shots, and you're standing out in the crowd. And like, that's the reason why we're still playing. Like, I feel like all of us, say old guard, are still here and playing, because like those moments are what you play for, to make a big shot and hear the crowd roar, and, to do all that on national television. Like, that's the fun of it now. And when you got to the trials, and when we got to the Brier, and that fun and excitement was still there, like, that was kind of like, okay, I can still get my head around, another season or two or whatever.
Right. And there wasn't a moment, you're standing there, Brad's getting the big send off, he's getting to say goodbye, not just to the game, but really to the city and the province that has given you guys so much. Was there a part of you standing there thinking like, man, if I don't get that offer, if this is the last game for me, am I sort of missing an opportunity to kind of do the same thing here? No. Okay. No. I don't know.
And I don't want to speculate, because like I don't have to worry about what would have happened.
Sure.
But I was totally fine with, just pulling the curtain back and, a little, I would not have regretted any of that part.
Right. Okay. I just, it just seemed like such a magical moment, and you and Brad have been so, for sure.
But it was, and it was great for Brad. Like, it was so cool to see how many people, appreciated what he's done. And, I'll lump me and our teams into,
of course. Yeah. You're part of that. Obviously.
All of that stuff. But the appreciation for Brad and that continued to grow over the course of the season and what he's done. You touched on it for this city, this province, and, internationally for the country. There's not many people that can, hold a candle to what he's accomplished. And, he deserved that moment. And I was totally fine with, it was nothing. I'm not saying, oh, I wish that was me. It was not it never crossed my mind once. So,
nice.
It was a really special tribute and special moment to be a part of.
I love that. One last question before we move on to your new team, because I'm sure you're dying to talk about that. But you had mentioned your first season with Brad, 1998-99. You guys were a partnership for over 25 years. I mean, you had that one little detour when you played in Manitoba for a couple of years, but for the most part, it was you and Brad. And in this sport, it's such a rarity to see not only a combination of players play that long together, but a combination of back end players. We've seen like Mark Kennedy and Ben Hebert play. They're probably at about year 20 now, but also they're sort of on separate sides of the sheet now. And it's, there's ways to get around maybe some of the potential friction or whatever. I guess for the younger curlers or for even curlers who are playing now, how did you guys, number one, keep it going for so long, and what were the ways in which you guys were able to keep it fresh and keep pushing each other? Because I feel like we may never see a skip and third partnership last that long ever again, potentially.
Yeah, I think the easy answer is he had no other options in Newfoundland, so I was just kind of
I mean, give yourself a little more credit than that.
So that's the easy answer for me. I say this, obviously tongue in cheek, but I think we just kind of continue to push each other to improve. And I think there was a mutual respect between both of us that, he didn't have to worry about, if I was going to make it to practice or if I was doing the little things outside of practice and training and those things to be ready. And the same for me. And over the course of years, yeah, you certainly have moments where it's like, holy, are we in this again? Those sort of things. You have tough events, tough, a couple months, seasons that don't go your way. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, we both wanted the same thing, and we never gave up on that sort of stuff. As hard as it was at times, the travel, the all those little things, when we were just kind of, we always felt like we were pulling in the same direction, or that's me speaking. I always felt like we were always working towards the same goal. And, you talk the younger curlers coming up, I think you've got to have that mutual respect and want to make each other better as opposed to wanting to just be the best yourself. I think you gotta really focus on how do I make my teammates better? And sometimes it means, swallowing your pride a little bit and saying something that the other person might not want to hear, but it's going to make them better. I think Brad did a really good job of that with our teams. It's coming from a place where it's not an attack at the person. It's, this is what I see that's going to help you improve in whatever way it is. And then you got to respect your teammates and know that they're trying as hard as they can. They're not trying to miss. They're not trying to make mistakes. And once you get past those sort of things, then I think teams can really start to grow and do really special things.
Yeah, we hear that from a lot of top players, especially in curling, where it's such a small team sport that honesty is often the most crucial part of it, even though you can end up hurting feelings or whatever. Was there, I wasn't going to ask this, but now as you started talking, I'm like, was there a moment where you thought it was over? Like, can you pinpoint a moment where, 2014 or what, was there a moment where you were like, yeah, you know what, this might be it for us as a partnership?
Between me and Brad?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it did happen. I left. And,
But you retired first. You gave it, I'm quitting. I'm 28 and I'm done. And then you played 20 more years.
So, yeah, I guess. But like, yeah, there's definitely moments where it's like you feel like nothing's going your way, or it's just there's no chemistry, or there's things that you need to work on. I think the move I had to Manitoba and getting to play with Jeff and John and Reed for those couple of seasons really kind of helped me develop as a player and develop as a teammate, because I only really basically had one team, or
sure,
we had been. So I think that really helped me open my eyes a little bit more into how I could become a better teammate. And then when I came back, I had a new perspective and maybe a new appreciation for how things go on the team. But I think the conversations that we have with our sports psychologists and team management, anyone who was involved in our teams were involved with those sort of conversations. And I think having a mediator, someone to allow teams to express themselves with no fear of any sort of, I don't want to say backlash, but repercussion, or someone's going to not like what you say. At least having someone who's a part of the team, but maybe not the four people on the ice, to have a conversation. Is I believe our team got really good at having those tough talks in between events and leading into events and post event, debriefing on what went right, what went wrong, and what you need to work on. I feel like over the course of the years, we got really good at that. And when we were going really good, it just got easier to say how you feel, because everyone kind of respected what you were saying.
Right. Love it. Okay, let's talk about your new team.
Sure.
You're joining up with Matt Dunstone at the second position, and yeah. I'm going to guess, and I said this to a few people. I believe I said it on this podcast. You were kind of in a place where sort of reminded me of Lisa Weigel quite a bit, where when she ended up retiring, it was kind of a like, I've played for Rachel Homan and Jennifer Jones, so I'm not going to just play for the 30th ranked skip in the world or whatever. Like, were you in kind of that mode as well? Like, when you talk about waiting for calls after the season's over, whatever, like, was it a pretty short list of skips that would have intrigued you to play with? And then further to that, what intrigued you about Matt Dunstone?
Yeah, it's a good question. I did have, a combination of players or teams, that I was like, yeah, if I got a call from these guys, I'd be interested. And it wasn't a large list, obviously. And then, there was a lot of teams that were already formed kind of prior to that anyway. So, right. Some of the guys that I may have considered had already, formed their team. So I think, when Matt reached out, I want to say it was like a week and a half after the Brier, asking, did you want to have a chat? And we had a couple phone calls, and he left it with me for a while. And, it just, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, man, if I want to play at the top level, like this is my best option. And it was something that really kind of intrigued me. I think those guys are playing as good as anyone else has in Canada in the last few years. They probably, them and Brad Jacobs have been the most consistent teams on tour and in the country over the last number of years. And for me to have the opportunity to jump in on that is, it was really hard to say no. So I'm excited to play, with Ryan. I think he's become a hell of a lead. Every game he goes out and he's in the, mid to high 90s. Like, he's just so consistent. And Matt and Colton, they're still getting better. They're really, really good right now, and I still see their ceiling as being even higher. So I think, if I can do my job and set them up like I believe that I can, I think it'll be a nice seat in the house to sweep rocks for Colton and Matt and watch them make a highlight reel shots and win us a lot of games.
Was there any trepidation for you going to second? Like, was there ever any conversations about you being in the house? Or because I know Matt's spoken about his connection with Colton and how much he likes having Colton in the house, where you were right away all good with I'm sweeping and I'm playing second?
Yeah, it's like it wasn't a conversation that we had. Their chemistry and the way they work together is really good. I've been doing it for the last couple of years anyway, with Brendan, being in the head with Brad for the last couple of seasons. So that doesn't change my job at all, really, except I'm throwing rocks 3 and 4 as opposed to 5 and 6. And, my job is, to make them as good as I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everybody understands that, and I think a lot of people will love the idea that you're bringing this, veteran quality that's team. You've seen it all, you've done it all, you've been in all the big games. But I'm curious, I know you're a guy who wouldn't do this if you didn't think there was also some growth potential for yourself still left. So I'm curious how you think they might help you grow. Do you have a sense of that yet?
Yeah, I think those, every team has a different kind of dynamic or philosophy that they use to be successful. I'm interested, I've already said we're the old guard. Like, are there things that I haven't even thought about that they're doing?
Right.
Maybe there's some new ideas, like kind of, you rewind 10, 12 years ago when we were first starting to get moving. Like, we started to do some things that were maybe a little bit controversial or unorthodox, and now everyone's doing it. Like, are there things that they have in mind that we might be able to do to push the envelope a little bit more? I'm interested to see how they think. So yeah, I do. It's exciting to know that, I'm going to say at my age, that there's still an opportunity to play at the highest level with some of the best players in the world.
Yeah, well, I don't want to harp on your age as a fellow guy whose age now starts with a 4. I don't want to get too, beat you over the head with it too hard, but it's not unfair to say, like, you're 46 now, you're going to turn 47 in the middle of next season. We really don't see any more front end players in their 40s. Like, literally the list of top teams that might be in a slam next year that have front end players in their 40s, it's Ben Hebert, and that's it. So, I'm curious how you've managed to get to this point where you're still obviously someone that a top team, a defending Canadian champion, wants you in a front end role. And how do you plan to continue to stay competitive as you get a little bit closer to the age starting with a 5?
Yeah. I think over the course of the last 25 years, I've done a really good job of keeping myself healthy and in good shape. And I don't necessarily consider, a lot of times when I'm training, I don't feel like I'm 46. I train like I'm 25 or 30, and it does, take its toll on me. But I think it's also the way I push myself has kept me feeling younger. And I don't plan on changing the way I train. I'm going to push myself hard, within reason. Obviously, I certainly can't do things in the gym that I used to be able to do 10 years ago, but that doesn't mean I can't continue to push myself as hard as I can to be ready and as strong as I can for those guys. So I'm not going to change anything. In fact, I'll probably, try some things that I haven't even tried before to just, maybe see if it'll get a little bit more out of me, because like you said, not only is it the front ends, it's all the teams are way younger too. Like they're bigger, they're stronger, they're younger. It's the sport is getting younger, and which just means I'm getting older. But I think it's the gap now between, like you said, the players that are in their 40s to the number of teams that are in their 20s is crazy, because it wasn't like that long ago. So yeah, it keeps me young too, knowing that these guys are out there and there's some stuff that they're doing, and I can say that I can keep up with them, and maybe there's things that I can do that maybe they can't. But I think the experience side of it will help us. I still think I got all the shots. I think I can set up Matt and Colton as good as any other second out there. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
A couple more. Do you have a sense? You sort of brought it up earlier. You said, and I'm always listening, you said 1 or 2 years, or who knows. Yeah. I'm not.
I knew as soon as I said that. I knew as soon as I said it was coming back.
You made a huge mistake, Mark. No, I was going to ask you about it anyway. I mean, obviously, I'm not expecting you to sit here in May of 2026 and put a forecast on it. But is that something you've thought about? Like, is there a thought in your head that this could be the last year, or are you kind of leaving it open-ended? Like, what do you see? Because if you made it to the end of this quad, you'd be 50. Mm-hmm. So like, have you thought about that at all, or is this just we're in a year-by-year process now?
So I have said those exact words. It's like, if I go another quad, I'm going to be 50. And that's what I've said it to my wife. I don't know how many times. It's like, I can't be, because when we went to the Olympics in 2006, like Russ turned 50 at the Olympics, and he was ancient when it was like, I was like, and that could, like, I'm not saying that we're going to the Olympics, but like, imagine I go 4 more years and something happens and I go to the Olympics, and then now I'm Russ, like 50 at the Olympics. That's crazy. So to answer your question, I don't know if it's 4 years. The conversation that we had is like, let's see what year one is like. Let's see how we do, obviously, because I think that would play, like, if things don't work or it just doesn't mesh or those sort of things. Like, I don't think we're committing on anything any longer than that. But in my head, I'd love everything to go perfectly and we just continue on. That being said, I'm 46. Get through it halfway through the season and my hip gives out or my back gives out, or they got to start bringing in extra massage therapy or something like that for me to just get through events. And I might have to consider as like, okay, now it's time. But right now I'm healthy. I'm still playing well. I don't have any injuries. I feel like health is not going to be what limits me from continuing on.
Love that. Final question, and it's a simple one. What are you most looking forward to next season coming up?
A chance to play in the 100th Brier in Saskatoon. And wear the maple leaf, like be Team Canada. Like, I'm kind of pretty lucky that I just get kind of to jump into that
they
situation.
Just hand you a jacket with your last name on it. You go,
with the maple leaf. I'm lucky that I've been able to do that a few times, but it's a pretty special feeling to be Team Canada at the Brier. Now this one, the 100th episode or 100th version of the Brier. Saskatoon is a special place for us. It was our second Brier in 2004, and that's where I actually met my wife, because she is from Saskatchewan. We met there. So there's a lot of kind of, history behind all of it. And so I think it's going to be a pretty special event to be a part of.
Has it ever occurred to you, and honestly, I didn't even think about this until I thought about preparing for this interview, you have played in over 20% of all the Briers ever contested?
No, I didn't do the math.
It's not that hard.
No,
Once you get to 100, you just put a percent sign after the number of briars you've been in.
I got it now. But no, it's not what I thought about.
Isn't that crazy though? Like, it makes sense. You're in the 100th version of the briar. Like, you've played in literally over a fifth of them.
Yeah. Now that you say it, it makes me feel real old. So
I'm looking at it more like what an achievement. I'm not trying to make you feel
it's super cool. I didn't think of it that way. It's just, I don't think I could have ever imagined a world where I would be a part of that type of legacy. I always dreamed, like I talked about Pat right at the start, that's the first briar I vividly remember. Like they held up that golden tankard. Oh, it's so cool. I still wish I could have briar.
That trophy was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's the briar tankard now is super awesome. Super iconic. But when I was growing up, that golden briar tankard, to see those guys lift that, I was like, oh, that is so cool. So like all versions of the briar, to be a part of that many, and the history behind it, and just the Canadiana of the briar, and now 100 coming along. And I think Saskatoon and I think Curling Canada is gonna be a show, and I think it's gonna be awesome to be a part of.
Well, great that you're back. Great that you're in it. I can't wait to see how it all goes with Team Dunstone. Appreciate you taking the time to chat. Enjoy the summer, and look forward to the fall.
Yeah, appreciate the time, John.
Like I said, what did I tell you? Thoughtful guy. I was actually sort of blown away. I feel like I always kind of felt like that as a lead as well, where you're sort of, I always knew that I liked to talk and I was a pretty good talker, but no one ever asked me to talk because I was just the lowly lead. And not that Mark Nichols is a lowly guy. He was the third, but of course, when you're playing with Brad Gushue and he's a guy that gets all the attention, you can maybe slide under the radar a bit. But I really appreciated how just introspective Mark was, how he really let us in on just the decisions that he made that led him to joining Team Dunstone. I think we can all agree the game is better with Mark Nichols in it. Truly one of the gentlemen of the game, just a great guy, great competitor. So thrilled he's back, thrilled he agreed to chat to us. So thanks to him. Thanks again to Mark Ideson. Thanks to Goldline Curling. Thanks to the Curling Group. Thanks to you for listening. I think the plan is I want to do one more interview. I've got a couple guests that I'd really love to chat to before we get into this summer. I won't tell you who they are. I'm not going to spoil it, but I think we'll have another interview probably in 10 days to 14 days, sort of a similar gap from the last episode to this one. And then I think Robbie and I thought we were maybe done with all the team change news, and we kind of put a button on that last episode, but as you've seen, the team changes are still coming fast and furious. Nicholas Adine retiring. There's been a bunch of shakeups in Italy on the women's side. There's still team changes coming in. And so I think Robbie and I will chat with you one more time, and then we will hang up the broom for the summer. So you have at least 2 more episodes to look forward to. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if you want to see a video of this episode, it's on our YouTube. It's just at the Broom Brothers. You can subscribe, like, do all the stuff over there. We're also on every social media at the Broom Brothers. Just type in the Broom Brothers. You will find us. Thank you, as always, for listening. As I said, thanks again to Mark and Mark for 2 fantastic chats. Hope you enjoyed them. We will see you back here in a couple weeks. Goodbye.